China has sanctioned Taiwan's de facto ambassador to the United States. Beijing accuses Hsiao Bi-khim of, quote, colluding with the U.S. to seek Taiwan independence. The sanctions mean that Hsiao is barred from entering Chinese territory, including Hong Kong and Macau. Any businesses with ties to her are also forbidden from cooperating in China. This is the second time Hsiao has been sanctioned by the Chinese government. Hsiao seemed unfazed by the news, posting on Twitter, "Wow, the PRC just sanctioned me again for the second time." China's foreign ministry also announced steps against the Hudson Institute and the Ronald Reagan Presidential Library. Both hosted President Tsai Ing-wen during her stops in the U.S. To find out more about the implications of China's recently announced sanctions, Herel Hughes spoke to Roger Huang, senior lecturer at Macquarie University in Sydney, Australia.
So in the past 24 hours, China's foreign ministry has announced a number of sanctions against institutions and people who met Tsai during her transit through the U.S. And this includes the Ronald Reagan Presidential Library and the Hudson Institute. So what is the broader implication of these sanctions?
So the main key here, I think, is that these sanctions, their main point is coercion, right? It is trying to create this idea of fear that anyone who associate with the Taiwanese and also any or work on agendas that is diverged from the Chinese perspective could be a legitimate target of these type of coercive sanctions, which can then also extend to people affiliated, even nominally associated with these individuals or organizations.
Would you say that these are generally symbolic?
So on the one hand, it's mostly symbolic, right? So these targeted individual and organization sanctions are meant to create a sense of fear. What is more interesting is the actual sanctions that China usually practices, which is the economic diplomatic sanctions that has, Taiwan is obviously very familiar with this, with the pineapples and the fish, etc. But China has almost, I wouldn't say perfected, but have chosen this as a very convenient economic tool that has regularly used not only just against Taiwan.
Is this the sort of response we would expected from China from this visit?
So, of course, a lot of things are happening, right? These sanctions are probably the least they could do, right? So it's largely symbolic. Most of these individuals and organizations probably do not own assets or will not be visiting in Chinese-controlled territories. Of course, there are real ramifications. Now, there are other things that we should be concerned about, right? Of course, there was the Shandong aircraft carrier that was, had a first kind of military live exercise in the Western Pacific, right, into the east coast of Taiwan. Now, also, for me, what's more worrying is the local provincial authorities of Fujian declaring basically that would potentially board Taiwanese ships and vessels across the Taiwan Strait.